Hello Skillr fans, today we will do an in-depth tactical analysis of the Gazelle punch, looking at the mechanics of the punch, evaluating the pros and cons of the technique, the best boxers to master this punch, and also going into some variations of this creative technique. But before we start the breakdown, we just wanted to introduce you to our sponsor, Pro Boxing, a new comprehensive heavy bag program that helps you train with structure. Shuffle top combos, select active recovery exercises, and get into fighting shape anywhere. Download Pro Boxing today and master the sweet science. Skillr fans can save 15% with the link below. Strategy and technique are the name of the game when it comes to boxing, and because of that, fighters are constantly innovating ways to gain the upper hand over their opponents. Among the myriad of techniques and maneuvers, the Gazelle punch stands out as one of the more spectacular and unique techniques, which if executed correctly, can be devastating. Definition and mechanics. Even though there is some mix-up with the terminology at times, officially the Gazelle punch is a leaping lead hook thrown lunging forward.
Basically, you're feinting low and then you're coming up with the hook for the most part.
That is why you can also hear it as a Gazelle hook, but it refers to the same punch.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I never called it a Gazelle hook. I just did it, you know what I'm saying? And even Eddie, he calls it the Tua. If you guys remember David Tua, who knocked almost everybody out with a left hook.
Advantage here, we'll see how he uses it. Tua with a big left hook.
As mentioned, what characterizes this lead hook as a Gazelle punch is the lunging motion.
He's got to be active. He's got to.
Every boxer has slightly different variants that we will get into, but the mechanics usually start with a subtle duck to quote unquote load up the punch. With this slight duck, you are pressing down with your body weight to get inertia to lunge forward.
Team, the Baltimore Ravens.
Just before lunging forward, the majority of the weight is on the lead leg, which will be the last point of contact with the floor. Then lunging slightly up and forward, the lead hook starts to open and connects while moving in the air. That is also why the weight on the lead leg is important, as that way you load the lead hook to create that looping motion while lunging. Background. One of the earliest examples of which this punch can be seen is from Rocky Marciano and Floyd Patterson. But it was really claimed for Patterson as he really revolutionised it with the exaggerated lunging movement. Now the main reason the Gazelle punch emerged was as a solution to break long distances between two opponents, which was extremely useful for smaller boxers. In the case of Rocky Marciano, it helps him compensate for his shorter reach. Even though Patterson did have more reach, he had the natural frame of a light heavyweight rather than a heavyweight, winning his Olympic gold as a middleweight, so it helped him against bigger guys too. For those reasons, it became a really effective punch and a hallmark of their style. Now, while Floyd Patterson may be one of the earliest ones to really utilise the Gazelle punch, there have been many more since then. Old school examples, Joe Frazier. While the jab is universally regarded as the most fundamental punch in all of boxing, one boxer disregarded that and instead built off his style of a devastating left hook. Just like Floyd, Joe was a fan of the Gazelle punch as well and would utilise this punch more so as a form of counterattack.
And Foster is hit with a...
Joe would add in more defensive head movement, constantly bobbing and weaving. This constant motion would make him a harder target for the taller opponent to land their longer punches, such as the jab or straight. The issue is even if he dodges the punch, he is still too far out of range to land anything of his own. This is where the Gazelle punch comes into play. Joe would use his lunging momentum as soon as the opponent missed to break the gap between them so he could land the hook. Mike Tyson.
Left hand again.
Just like Joe, Both were small for their division and would resort to bobbing and weaving to create the Gazelle punch as a counter-attack to close the gap between him and his opponents.
Left hook.
Roy Jones Jr. Perhaps one of the boxers with the greatest left hooks in the entire sport, Roy Jones Jr., also known as Captain Hook, would also utilise a sort of Gazelle punch into his own game. He would first be constantly touching up the opponent with a jab, making them worry about it.
To attack, but speed is a big. When Vernon Forrest played last week, he acknowledged he would happen.
Eventually, he would trick the opponent with a jab feint.
I go here and dip my left shoulder, my right shoulder high on my left. Yeah. Why? Because I want to, I get the uppercut, I get the back shot, or I get the hook.
As Roy's feinting, he changes his jab into a hook instead and lunges at the opponent as they are backing up.
Body from Jones, and then
to me, seemingly the idea of right on the back line.
Jones comes back with 2 left hooks to the head.
Pros and cons. Pros. As from what we have seen, the Gazelle punch offers several strategic advantages that can be used in the ring in a variety of ways. Disruption. Firstly, it can be used to disrupt the opponent's rhythm. These sudden lunges force them to react, and oftentimes they react or overreact the wrong way, such as taking their high guard down, which creates an opening.
Couple of rounds, maybe.
Breaking the gap. Secondly, it can be used to bridge the distance between the boxer and their opponent, closing in swiftly to deliver a decisive blow. Diversity of execution. Thirdly, there is a diversity of ways one can go about throwing the Gazelle punch. One can use it as a means of forward aggression. Another can use it as a means to counter or utilise feints before landing it. Cons. High risk. Lunging movements, while powerful, inherently carry significant risk.
Fighting for the title, you can't be afraid if you get knocked out.
When you commit to a lunge, you expose yourself entirely, hurling yourself forward at such a high speed. If an opponent times you perfectly as you lunge in, their counterattack becomes way more powerful due to your forward momentum, running into their punch while at the same time the opponent is throwing at you. Modern boxers using the Gazelle punch. Now let's take a look at some boxers of the modern era using the Gazelle punch. Nick Ball. In the case of Nick Ball, same as for the previous examples, it helps him close the gap between him and his opponent, which is crucial for his style due to his smaller frame. Nick will sometimes double up the lead hook as he is lunging forward instead of throwing just one.
And again. That's a good shot.
Israil Madrimov. The interesting thing about Madrimov is we will see him not only throw to the head,
Now pretty much there from Madrimov,
but also use the Gazelle punch to the body. A dangerous shot, but he seems to make it work.
more special. Medalists.
Gervonta Davis. Another example of a perfect use of the Gazelle punch to close the gap, and with real intent behind the punch. His agility and power on the legs really make perfect examples of the Gazelle punch, and he has delivered one of the best and more exemplifying punches of how damaging it can be.
His hometown NFL team, the Baltimore Ravens.
Variations of the Gazelle punch. Now, while the Gazelle punch is a lunging lead hook, with time we have seen slight variations of the punch. The following are theoretically no longer classified as Gazelle punches since they are not lead hooks. However, these punches still carry that fundamental lunging movement of the Gazelle punch. Leaping jab, Hagler and Beterbiev. The leaping jab uses the same lunging principle as the Gazelle punch, ducking down and using the legs to lunge forward, but instead of a looping shot with a linear punch. Marvin Hagler is the prime example and the boxer that has used it more effectively. It is a resource he often used to close the gap, and once on the inside, he would shift to the opposite stance as the opponent tried to angle away. Another boxer who has been seen using it really frequently is Artur Beterbiev.
And he touches.
Similar to Hagler, it helps him close the distance and set up his rear hand.
Every time Beterbiev get close to him, he
chose to be a boxer.
Leaping uppercut, Naseem Hamed. Same as the Gazelle punch
To me, seemingly the idea.
and the leaping jab, you start from a low position. Only this time it is an uppercut, so the shot will go from down to up.
Seemingly the idea showing us dancing.
The best example is Naseem Hamed, who would usually use it with his hand on the neutral position instead of in the supine position. That way, the punch sneaks through the small gap on the opponent's guard. The Gazelle punch has been around for some time, and we have seen many different variations and use cases from different boxers. But now, we would love to know your opinion on the comments. Who had the best Gazelle punch, and what do you think of this technique? Let us know, and if you like this video, you can find more on our channel. And to your left, we have chosen a video that we thought you may like.